The Board of Deans of Maastricht University, on the recommendation of its faculties and after consultation with the University Council, has decided to award an honorary doctorate to Professor Detlef Ganten in recognition of his outstanding achievements.
High blood pressure is a major health issue worldwide. Blood pressure can rise to dangerous levels when the so-called renin-angiotensin system becomes overactive. Detlef Ganten, professor in pharmacology and molecular medicine, discovered that this hormone system is not just confined to blood, but is additionally present in tissues such as the brain. Ganten's discovery put pressure on his fellow researchers, as it opened up whole new avenues of research. Its validity, however, was originally questioned by his peers at a conference in Hamburg. Passionate as Detlef Ganten is, he caught the next flight to Hamburg to show that such critique was unqualified and ended up leaving his audience stunned.
May I invite Professor Detlef Ganten and Professor Martin Pauw, who replaces Professor Thomas Unger, who unfortunately could not be here with us today, to fulfill the duty he has been charged with. Please.
Thank you very much. It's indeed a stroke of fate that I'm standing here in place of Professor Unger, who is unfortunately not yet able to travel to Maastricht, but will come back soon, because I'm probably the person who knows Professor Ganten for the longest in this room, because I entered his group, his research group, 35 years ago exactly, to this month. And I would like to elaborate a bit more than this short film could show why I believe that his contributions are very worthy of an honorary doctorate at our university, and it fits actually quite well with the speech that you gave and that Mark Post gave. Because the first reason is that he is certainly a scientist who had revolutionary ideas, and this movie just showed a little example of it, also fought for his ideas. It also showed that very fundamental approaches of research are probably an excellent way to reach the clinic, reach society, because with very molecular and biochemical approaches he discovered the function of a system that today has led to new diagnostic and therapeutic concepts in clinical medicine and is benefiting many patients. He also, as a fundamental scientist, has shown that societal implications of research is really something that we have to care about in the academic community, because he was very instrumental of generating outreach programs to patients and to society as a whole about this problem, hypertension and cardiovascular disease. He founded the German Institute to combat hypertension. He was for a long time the president of the World Hypertension League. And in recent years, with the World Health Summit and the M8 Alliance, has broadened this societal need to understand research and also to bring the scientific community closer to policymakers worldwide. That's the first reason why he's very deserving of this doctoral degree. Secondly, he also, and that is not realized by many, has been very important in building up this university, in particular the Faculty of Health, Medicine and Science and our research school CARM, because in 1990 he was running a very large European program looking at basic principles of high blood pressure and end organ damage, and he invited researchers from Maastricht University, Harry Stryker-Boudier and Jo Smits, among others, to take part in this program. And I think this initiative was very much at the basis of the molecular profile that CARM has today. And also, a few years ago, he gave advice that led to the installation of our Systems Biology Institute. But most importantly, and I can say that because I know him for so long, he has been really a person to stimulate young people and bring them to academia. And I'm just one of them. And he did this by leading by example, being a modest person and by teaching us really the essence of being an academic worker, a researcher. And I remember this very well, that Detlef Ganten always told us students in the lab to leave your personal ambition, because everybody who's doing this is ambitious, behind, and to think about the common cause and the common subject. Es geht die Sache. Always told us that. And I still remember this very well. So for all these reasons, I think it's not fitting very well with our university, but also with the speeches that we heard today. And therefore, by the authority vested on me by law and in conformity with the decision of the Board of Deans, I hereby confer upon you, Professor Ganten, the degree of Doctor Honoris Causa and all the rights deriving therefrom by law and tradition. As evidence of this, I present you the degree certificate signed by the Rector, the Dean of the Faculty Health, Medicine and Life Science, and myself, as well as Professor Unger, and affixed with the Great Seal of the University, and I put it on your shoulders, the kappa, which signifies the honor bestowed upon you. May I ask you, on this side? So, I think we knew the new system here.
Rector Magnificus, President, dear colleagues, I'm a very simple medical doctor, to paraphrase the Rector Magnificus. And I'm very thankful, of course, and I'm impressed and inspired. I'm thankful because the Netherlands have such a strong and long-standing tradition in science and research and teaching, and it's a great honor to be a honorary doctor of this famous university, only 40 years old, but already famous around the world. I'm impressed by the celebration, the university, of course, but the celebration of this kind. We don't have that in our country. We don't have the tradition anymore, I may say. The usual academic celebrations are not of this kind. I was impressed by the speeches. I don't want to say recapitulate, but having a Rector Magnificus talking about world affairs at the same time as mentioning his own university, I think is unusual. And having a colleague from science citing in one speech Feyerabend and Feynman and many other philosophers and Karl Popper, whom I might add, and Paul Kuhn, is unusual with a hamburger at the same time. I'm inspired because I feel this university really, I knew that before intellectually, but now I get a real feeling in this ceremony. It's a real university reaching out in all areas. And this is, I think, what we need to do. Science has to take responsibility. You said Maastricht University is only 40 years old. Berlin University is only 25 years old. Berlin was reinvented after the German reunification. As you know, we had many historical breaks in our great, of course, scientific tradition in our city, but it's being reinvented. We have a couple of institutions, the Charité, where I came from, the Max Delbrück Center, where I came from, and the Berlin Institute of Health, which is just being founded. And I'm inspired by all the discussions and the speeches that indeed we may increase our collaboration between Maastricht University and Berlin University and our both international networks which we have both established. This is not the first time I am in Maastricht. This will not be the last time. I've been invited to come to the famous concert when André Rieu will play on the marketplace. But we will use this time to further discuss how we can collaborate and kind of live up to the expectations of the world society that science has to contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ganten. Thank you also very much, Martin, for falling in for Thomas Unger here. And I think it was a very interesting way to make up the links with everything we stand for here at this university. Let me now move on to the next Dr. Honoris Causa. The Board of Deans of Maastricht University, on the recommendation of its faculties and after consultation with the University Council, has decided to award an honorary doctorate to Professor Susan Rose Ackerman in recognition of her outstanding achievements.
It manifests itself in different ways, some more subtle than others. From anonymous companies to bribes and unjust electoral systems, corruption has many faces. Luckily, though, there are also many ways to challenge it. Susan Rose Ackerman is a Henry R. Luce Professor of Jurisprudence and probably one of the most well-known law and economics scholars in the world. With her exceptional knowledge concerning the role of governments in corruption, Susan always asks the question how governments can be made more accountable and legitimate. She has done an impressive amount of comparative work between the US and Europe, as well as paying a lot of attention to developing countries. Her work has made an important contribution to the battle against corruption all over the world.
May I invite Professor Susan Rose Ackerman and Professor Michael Faure, who the Board of Deans has appointed as her supervisor, to fulfill the duty he has been charged with.
Susan Rose Ackerman is economist by training and professor at Yale Law School. There she applies the economic methodology to law. She is a world leader in this approach, which is known as the economic analysis of law or law and economics. She has done a lot of important work on a very broad domain in law and economics, such as, for example, the quest for optimal instruments to remedy environmental pollution, the role of the court in applying liability rules versus the role of administrative agencies in issuing regulation, the question how regulation should be set within the multi-level governance setting of a federal system, how to improve the quality of regulation and decision-making by agencies, and moreover, she has done a lot of important work on the sources of and the remedies against bribery and corruption. Moreover, Susan Rose Ackerman has not only done important theoretical work on these various aspects of the economic approach to law, she has also examined to what extent and why regulatory solutions in various legal systems differ. She has hence also applied her multidisciplinary law and economics approach in a comparative manner, addressing legal systems in Europe and in the US, but also in developing countries. She has published in the most prestigious journals, and her books have been translated in more than 17 languages. It is therefore no surprise that her work has had an important impact on policymakers, regulatory agencies, and courts as well, and this at a worldwide level. Her work is characterized by a quest for a balanced approach, which on the one hand respects the virtues of the market mechanism, but on the other hand also recognizes the need for government intervention, thereby suggesting how administrative law can be improved in order to increase the quality of regulation and decision-making by administrative agencies. In sum, Susan Rose Ackerman is someone who did both path-breaking theoretical work in the domain of law and economics, but who has also shown leadership in providing clear advice for policymakers and for legal practice. For all of those reasons, Maastricht University has decided to award her a honorary doctorate. By the authority vested on me by law, and in conformity with the decision of the Board of Deans, I hereby confer upon you, Professor Susan Rose Ackerman, the degree of Doctor Honoris Causa, and all the rights deriving therefrom by law and tradition. As evidence of this, I present to you the degree certificate signed by the Rector, the Dean of the Faculty of Law, and myself, and affixed with the Great Seal of the University. And I put on your shoulders the kappa, which signifies the honor bestowed upon you. We need a new one, Martin.
So I, of course, am very honored to be made an honorary doctorate of the University of Maastricht. And as I learn more about the university, I realize that it's very appropriate in the sense that my own background and interest in combining and looking at important policy issues across disciplines, whether it's administrative law, the role of science in regulation, or corruption, touches not just on law, but on history, on economics, on political science, on science, and that tradition which you seem to want to develop here in your university is very, I'm very sympathetic to those efforts. So thank you very much, and I'm enjoying your beautiful city. It was obviously a great choice to replace coal mining with a university, so thank you. I don't think I'd be here for the coal mining, but good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor, and thank you also, Michael, for being here as the erepromoter. The Board of Deans of Maastricht University, on the recommendation of its faculties and after consultation with the University Council, has decided to award an honorable doctorate to Professor Paul de Grauwe in recognition of his outstanding achievements.
A completely free market eventually becomes self-destructive. The government is needed to control the market in order to save it. This is a recent statement by Paul de Grauwe, professor at the London School of Economics. Believe it or not, he has also had moments in his career when he strongly believed the complete opposite, namely that governments should play a minimal role. During his impressive career, he has shown that markets and governments play an ever-changing role in our society. As a consequence of the financial crisis in Europe, he recognized that rational behavior is often intertwined with emotions. Paul de Grauwe is a rare example of an economist who is able to reduce complex problems to their core, discussing them in clear terms, but without ever losing touch with his scientific background.
May I invite now Professor Paul de Grauwe and Professor Johan Muisken, who the Board of Deans appointed as his supervisor, to fulfill the duty he has been charged with.
Paul de Grauwe was professor of international economics at the University of Leuven for most of his working life. After his mandatory retirement, he joined the London School of Economics, where he is still very active. His research interests are international monetary relations, monetary integration, and open economy macroeconomics. He was visiting professor at many universities and published over 100 articles and various books. In addition to being a theoretical economist, Paul de Grauwe loves to apply economic concepts and ideas in policy debates. He was visiting scholar at the IMF, the Federal Reserve Bank, the Bank of Japan, and the European Central Bank. He has also been active in politics as a member of the Belgian Parliament. Next to that, he was a member of the Economic Policy Group advising President Barroso, and currently he is, amongst others, director of a research network of CES IFO in Munich and research fellow at CEPS in Brussels. And last but not least, he's a very well-known participant in the public debate on the future of the European Monetary Union, never lacking controversial opinions. Paul de Grauwe is very familiar with Maastricht University and with SBE. He is a regular guest in Maastricht, where he delivered many lectures for the Department of Economics and for Studium Generale. Through his well-known textbooks on the economics of monetary union, and through his articles, he has influenced many Maastricht students in their thinking on the future of Europe. Two remarkable features of his work are, first, the clarity of the presentation of his arguments. Paul is among the few economists who are able to reduce complex problems to the core and discuss these in clear terms without losing his scientific background. And he's also very able to apply economics to everyday problems. His latest book, De Limieten van de Markt, The Limits of the Market, which I personally liked very much, is an outstanding example. Second, in addition to being a theoretical economist, Paul loves to apply economic concepts and ideas in policy debates, as already mentioned. The lecture that he will deliver later will illustrate this. Finally, and not less important, Paul is a very pleasant and optimistic person with many friends at SBE. He always succeeds to surprise us with new and original ideas. We are very pleased that Professor Paul de Grauwe has accepted the invitation to be awarded the honorary doctorate at our university, next to the honorary degrees he received at the University of St. Gallen, Turku, Genoa, and Valencia. Dear Paul, I'm very proud to be your honorary promoter. In your honorary doctorate, I recognize the importance of the combination of high academic quality and genuine social concern. By the authority vested on me by law and in conformity with the decision of the Board of Deans, I hereby confer upon you, Paul de Grauwe, the degree of Doctorus Honoris Causa and all the rights derived therefrom by law and tradition. As evidence of this, I present you the degree certificate signed by the Rector, the Dean of the School of Business and Economics, and myself, and affixed with the Great Seal of the University. And I put on your shoulders, I will try to put on your shoulders, the kappa, which signified the honor bestowed upon you.
Zal ik daarop plaatsen? Anders nog niet. Ja, oké. Ja, ja. Mr. Rector Magnificus, dear Johan, thank you so much. I'm so honored and impressed by what happens today. I was particularly impressed that this occurs in this magnificent Gothic church, which reminds us also of the history of Maastricht and also the other parts of this part of the world, which was one of religious strife and fighting. Right? This used to be a Catholic church, I just guess because it's a Gothic church, but has become Protestant later and testifies for what has happened in history here. And what is so interesting is today to find out that we don't celebrate religion here anymore, but science. And science has a very different structure. Those who do science have a different mental structure, and that is that they are willing to set aside their cherished beliefs and theories. They are willing to reject them if the fact shows that we should reject them. And that makes the contrast between science and religion. I'm not really saying that those of you who have a belief in religion should set it aside. I just want to tell you how important that is, that we do it today in this church. And finally, I want to introduce something which is a little bit different, and that is that we are all now being put forward and honored for our individual achievements. But that reminds me of what Newton once said, and that is that he, Newton, the scientist of the world and of history, that he stood on the shoulders of giants that were living before him. And I want to stress that also today, because if I have individual achievements, it is mainly because I could stand on the shoulders of people who had done research before me, and also people, colleagues, students that were working with me. So essentially, this has been a collective effort, and I'm just representing the collective effort that has been done before me and with me. Thank you very much.